Just watching the footage of everything that's happened in Minnesota has been devastating. The loss of human life, now this pattern of increased ICE cruelty, the administrative response from Trump and his officials. It really made me wonder what the response on the religious right would sound like. I knew it wasn't a good idea to go on Twitter. It's never a good idea to go on Twitter, but I just had to see how quick they would respond and what that response would sound like and how casually cruel it might actually be. My question in this moment isn't what are the legalities of this situation, while that obviously is a very real concern. My question is more so, what is it about the days of Trump that has pushed these Christians, these MAGA Christians, these Christian nationalists, over the edge in their casual cruelty into this place of utter lack of humanity, while also maintaining the position that they somehow still have the moral high ground in all of this? How does that logic work? What is actually going on underneath that they're also unified in that position? My name's Heidi, and on this channel we deconstruct holy ideas. Let's walk the holy road to cult land. I think what's so troubling about all of this to me isn't just the fact that a civilian, a US citizen, was shot and killed, but just how adamant and confident every single person on the religious right seems to be regarding the justification. What's clear in the Twitter feeds of people like Matt Walsh and Benny Johnson and Laura Loomer is that this event took about, a few seconds of their mind to watch a video, to make an instantaneous conclusion and tweet it out to all the people that they have influence over. So let's look at what those tweets actually look like. 100% confirms they were left-wing agitators intentionally trying to provoke an altercation with law enforcement, and then they drove right at him. Any conservative who bought the media narrative on this case is permanently discredited, and there's no coming back from it. Breaking POV footage from the ICE agent who was struck by a vehicle driven by anti-ICE activist Renee Good in Minnesota has been released. The Democrats have no argument against this. Pure self-defense. This was an attack. And this one really sums it up. I don't care about dead communist. Who cares? Why do we have to pretend like all life is equal? It's not, especially when you're a criminal. I don't care who this offends. It's the truth. A couple things really struck me about these responses. Maybe they struck you as well. The total utter certainty, not even one tiny ounce of doubt that there could have been any wrongdoing on anyone's part. The total, obviously, villainization of the victim. That's front and center. And the just naked assurance to the audience that this life does not matter to them. But even beyond all of that is just the fact that it was very clearly just this tiny blip on their radar, and they went about their day. This did not barely get on their radar. And yet, for seemingly half the country, it has brought us out to the streets at unprecedented rates. This is the disparity of realities that we're living in today, with the religious right on one end and seemingly majority of Americans on the other. It's easy to say, and you might be thinking yourself, they're evil, they're unhinged, they're insane, and I'm not going to argue with those positions. The problem in my mind is just that assessment, it doesn't help us maybe peel off one or two people as things continue to get worse and worse and worse, and we're in a more and more dangerous situation in this country. Because that's my hope. My hope is that there could be a person here and there who quietly leave. We saw that happen in the summer with the Epstein files. It wasn't this huge announcement, oh, we're leaving MAGA. It was this quiet exit. And my hope is that with every big new crazy event that happens, we will continue to see those quiet exits. And so why this is their position is relevant. It matters. And I think that we need to understand it. And when we look into the religious core of their motivation, we start to see the answer. On the surface, these religious right influencers will tell you that it is the principled position to support ICE no matter what, because they are executing on this mission, this holy mission to do this mass deportation that is a matter of national security. It's a matter of our communities. It's a matter of law and order. It's a matter of safety. That's what they say. But if that was what was actually driving their behavior, then this situation should have stopped them in their tracks. You have a total lack of law and order with the president and the vice president and Kristi Noem all going on record immediately defending the actions and then saying they're not going to investigate the officer at all. That is a breach of protocol. It should not be happening, and they should be upset about that because it's not law and it's not order. They should be horrified by the fact that ICE agents can cause such a lack of safety and security in local communities where they're doing their job. That should be upsetting to them, but it's not, because what they say they believe isn't what's actually driving them. The object of their true devotion is twofold. The first layer is hierarchy. If you grew up in a conservative Christian environment like I did, this should sound very familiar to you. We are all in this hierarchical system within those expressions of Christianity. If you are a child, you listen to your parents. If you're a woman, you listen to a man. If you're a man, you listen to your pastor. If you're a pastor, you're accountable to God. And when we stay in this hierarchy, we are staying within the blessing of God. It's kind of like the basic premise there. The problem here is that what it does is it creates a top-down structure where, especially the further you are down the rungs, the less you effectively matter. Truth is what is told to you from the top down, and obedience is your expectation. As soon as someone in this system bucks the hierarchy, the understanding of this group is that they deserve to be punished. And because Trump is the divine order of God in the government, they've taken that blueprint and applied it to the US government. So now, ICE is at the top, protesters are down the rung. So if you're bucking the hierarchy, you deserve punishment. And it's right there, simple, plain as day. They don't have to think about it because it's just right. So protesters aren't citizens with rights. They aren't neighbors. They aren't community members. They're not even worth defending. They're already subject to punishment. And while this divine hierarchy does explain a lot within MAGA Christianity and why they're so cozy with the idea of authoritarianism, it doesn't explain everything. It doesn't explain why they'd go to this extent. But the second piece, I think, really puts it all into perspective, and that is the holy mission. The vulnerability I've noticed about MAGA in the past is the fact that they didn't have a mission. They didn't have this express purpose of what they were going to do in the positive. They mainly were all about what they weren't going to tolerate and what they didn't want to see happen in the country. But this mass deportation has become the mission. They've all become aligned to the position that we must get any and every person who's not in with the program of this forced structure and hierarchy out of the country. From what I've heard a lot on the religious right, this seems to only be the first step. They're very focused on people who are not Christians. They're very focused on people who won't assimilate to their values, and I'm very concerned about what they think that means. But for now, it's deportation of illegal immigrants. This is their mission now. And because of that, it's their holy duty to protect the mission. I've been thinking a lot about how there's been this long history throughout Christianity and Catholicism of protecting leaders who abuse congregants. And it's something that none of these institutions want people thinking about or talking about. Certainly didn't want them to know about, but we know about it now. I think that a lot of people have kind of reached two camps on this. On the one hand, there's a lot of people who say the entire institution of religion is just evil, and this is always going to happen within that institution. And then on the other hand, you have people who defend the system and say that there's just bad apples and you just have to keep going and finding those bad apples and getting them out of there, and the institution is just fine. Well, the way that I see it is a little bit different than either one of these perspectives. I believe that in a lot of these situations, the reason why leaders are protected and their actions are hidden from everyone isn't necessarily because the leadership condones the behavior. I believe that the mission that they believe that they're on is too holy to let this obstacle take them down. And I think that that's how they view people and any negative action once they've decided that they're on a holy mission. And this is very scary Because like we've seen in these church institutions, it means that they'll cover up practically anything. Because the way that they look at it is the devil's trying to attack us through this thing. So we need to just get rid of that thing, and then that attack from the devil goes away. The sense of accountability, the sense of recognizing the wrong deed and maybe why it happened just goes out the window completely. And this has been a long ingrained pattern within Christian institutions. I think that that's a really important element of what's happening in this case, because what it means is that in the minds of these influencers, they can't consider the details. They can't consider the ambiguity. They have to necessarily see this as a 100% black and white, obvious issue, case closed. Because if they don't, then they risk this obstacle starting to dismantle the mission, the holy mission, the mission that cannot be abandoned. So what does this mean for a person who maybe has been a part of MAGA for a long time? What it means to me is something that I think should make any member of MAGA very nervous. What it means is that your leaders and the people who are influencing you don't necessarily see you as a valued person, a valued individual that's part of their team. They see you as useful because you're a number on their board until you're not. Just imagine a scenario where you happen to find yourself in a location where the ICE raids are happening in this way and it's getting scary. You happen to drive your car down the wrong road, wrong place, wrong time, which we're seeing this happen more and more. And the ICE agent just happens to think that you're some kind of threat, and this kind of thing happens to repeat again, whether it turns fatal or not. What do you think those people are going to say about you? I think they're going to immediately decide that you are a villain. That's what I think. I can't prove it, but that's what I think. Because if we look at those cases of abuse in the church, those were members not being protected from abusers, not crazy cat ladies in Portland or some liberal city, members of their own community not being protected. Because in these systems, the beliefs are a smokescreen. The thing that they really protect and defend is the system, not a person, not a victim, the system. And what that tells me is that if you end up being a victim, they're not going to protect you either. I know that a lot of us watching this right now are feeling afraid and we don't know what to think about all of this, myself included. Fear is not irrational in this moment. We are seeing federal forces deployed in unprecedented numbers, and protesters have been taking to the streets in Minneapolis and cities across the country. Tens of thousands have turned out to march and chant and demand accountability. And the national government is even looking at invoking the Insurrection Act, which would make protest feel intimidating. It feels like a lot of things are breaking all at once. But what I want to remind myself of when I get to my most fearful, and what I want to remind you of as well, is that fear is not the only force at play here. What I've seen on social media and what I'm starting to see in my community is unity at unprecedented levels. Because when the threats get bigger, people find each other. When the world is looking scarier, we're reminded of our own humanity. And that's the thing that I hope to see more of. So I want to just encourage you to do two things. Find people. Online is great. It's helpful. Find people in your real community who you can be connected to in this time, who you can find their humanity and they can find yours. And I want you to find something to do. I've been starting to volunteer with a local Senate race happening here in Texas. James Talarico is running for Senate, and I think he's a really inspiring candidate, and it's something I can do. It's not everything, it's not perfect, it's not great, but it's something. Someone in this community actually emailed me and let me know what they're doing in their community, and it's all anonymous, so I won't give you any details on it, but they're creating bumper stickers that they go around and put on people's cars on a daily basis that say, "Choose love, not fear." It's not perfect, it's not everything, but it's something. And I think you can do something too. I know not everyone has time, but if you do, it connects us, it reminds us of our humanity, and more importantly, it reminds us that we can feel afraid and do something anyway. So let us know in the comments how the situation is affecting you, how you're processing it, how we can be supporting one another in this community. And if you're looking for more videos about the psychology of the religious right and MAGA and conservative evangelicals, I would recommend this playlist right here where I go through a number of different topics in this area. And of course, there's more to come in the future, and we'll catch you in the next one.